Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Host Eric. This is my beloved life partner, wife, girlfriend, and significant other, Rachel Apollosa.
Hi.
And together we comprise Talking with Famous People. Ron Alslon, I gotta tell you something. You are quick. You win almost every single time.
Yeah. Hi,
Octavia Silva. Today, I pose the provocative typology question. Which type takes the least crap? With the sort of additional premise or assertion that it's definitely not ENTP. But I actually take quite a bit of crap.
Yes, you do.
You know, I put up with a fair amount of crap before I go, okay. ISTP, Ron Allen says, or ISTJ. I think ISTJ puts up with a lot of crap. So I don't think ISTJ is the correct answer. ISTP might be a reasonably good answer. ENTJ is a reasonably good answer. ESTJ potentially a good answer.
I feel like ESTP.
ESTP comes to mind as well. ISTPs only take crap from people you like. C.S. Joseph says ISFJ SI can take abuse. I mean, what does that mean? Like, does it mean they've got a tough body in some sense? Very durable body? I would tend to say that might possibly be a correlation. Certainly, it's true of my mom, who's always been an excellent physical health, and she's an SI Dom. But I'm not quite sure what that means. Have endurance? You mean like long distance running and stuff? I don't think they're going to be very into that stuff. The thing is, ISFJs, ISTJs, they don't really like to push themselves beyond what's within a good, natural, comfortable, healthy range for their SI, because they're SI DOMs. You know when it's important for them to get some rest. They know when they're pushing it too hard and they're going to be sore tomorrow, and they don't want to do that. And they know when they're mad. Yeah. I mean, okay. So we could always just throw out provocative quotes by C.S. Joseph anytime, and they're always gonna. I mean, you can find plenty of wrong things that he says. I don't really feel it's worth responding to him. Frankly, it's not like he's got any good justification for anything. So, you know, it's like that guy Richard Feynman says. Thank you, Gen X. I saw it. I haven't looked at it yet. It's been a busy couple of days. It feels like I'm at work almost. Do INTJs have a God complex? Well, what do you think a God complex is? I mean, you think it means basically that they believe themselves to know better than everybody else? Well, yeah, but I would say that is generally common to everybody. You know, regardless of type.
I don't think they know
Everybody
best.
seems to think they know best. I mean,
That's facts.
Like more or less literally everybody.
Mm-hmm.
The smartest people will know what topic areas they're ill-informed about enough to not make claims about them or not have strong positions or whatever. Talk about the mafia. I don't know much about the mafia. I believe they are individuals primarily of Italian descent who walk around the streets of New York, New Jersey area. They say, "Mamma mia!" to people, and then whenever they finish a task, they say "bada bing, bada boom." Is that right? Pretty much. That's the mafia, I believe. Yeah.
You got it right. You can thank HBO and The Sopranos for your education and Law and Order.
Do you want to find or resent the idea of finding answers rather than intuiting answers yourself, considering questions independent of whether answers are right or wrong, either yours or discovered ones? I mean, I used to a lot more than I do now. That definitely goes with the territory for being in any dome. All the any domes want to make their own thing. Any tool as well, they want to make their own thing. And they want to be original. They want to. My dad was always telling me when I was a kid, don't stop reinventing the wheel, Eric. That's what he'd say to me. But I'd like to try to do it my own way. I don't want to do it the way you're supposed to do it. I want to do it Eric's way. I want to do it Eric's original, creative way.
So, Broccoli Todd, why do you think that your landlord is a mobster who will eventually whack you? Have you not paid? Does he or she kind of stick it to you?
Do you find yourself to have an inherently whackable quality? Or just because that's what they do? I think they usually have a reason. Don't say what's that Italian thing that Jimmy B says in his speech?
Bafangul. That's
Bafangul.
the curse word. My grandma Lapalosa always used to say, "Don't listen to me. Don't when I'm saying this."
Yeah, so
she'd be like, "Bafangul."
Don't say that to your landlord if he's a
mafia. Don't say that. No, right. No. Put make macaroni and get sauce, whatever, and be like manja, and that'll definitely. That's a thumbs up for mafia landlords.
Why do I think BoJack Horseman's an INFJ? FE Tool and I don't.
You know what? It's similar to take away BoJack Horseman and put in Frank James, and it's a successful INFJ in the public eye, and then losing it only to find a hole. I don't know. It's hard to describe.
I mean, the thing is, why would you think he was an ENTP? I'll tell you so. Is a better question. Well, I mean, I know why you think that. It's because you're any-polar, and so you don't recognize the lack of any in him. But he is not an ideator.
If he's a nice guy, then and you're worried, just seriously make some macaroni.
Mm-hmm. With some red sauce.
Yeah, with some red sauce, and put it in a what do you call it? Tupperware, and be like, here, this is for you, thank you. You don't even know, they'll appreciate it so much. Add meatballs, even more so, but just the macaroni you'll do.
I mean, I think the point is that, he's INFJ, Mr. Peanut Butter's ESFJ. And
yeah.
When you think about it in that way, it's very clear why BoJack Horseman's INFJ. That's the INFJ response to celebrity versus the ESFJ response to celebrity. Walter White Probably INTJ. I don't really see a lot of SI there.
When I was watching it, I used to think INTJ. I never really knew what Jesse was. I could never really tell him.
Jesse was a friend. Yeah, you know who it was, a good friend of mine. But there's sometimes it's hard to find just this kind of stuff, girl, and I want to make her mine. And she's watching you with those eyes. And she's with those money, I just know it. And she's
late at night.
You know it, Jesse's girl. What does the world society be an evil, bad, unfair, justified, wrong deeds? Example, Lance Armstrong. I mean, Lance Armstrong is such a strange example to provide for this.
Lance Armstrong.
I don't think Lance Armstrong at any point has claimed that his bad deeds were justified by the world's evil, bad, or unfairness. Right? Like, that's, you might say something like, a classic example for something like that would be more like Hiroshima, the bombing of Hiroshima, potentially, depending on who you ask, or firebombing of Dresden or something. And the answer would typically be no, it doesn't. Well, the answer is no. In principle, if some sort of use of force, for example, or coercion is responsive to initiative aggression of certain kinds, then it's legitimate. Otherwise, it's not. And even when you might be justified, even when there's a justified use of force, it's not necessarily justified for you to use force because the state has a monopoly on use of force. So, what other kind of wrong deeds are you talking about? Like, does the fact that Jeff Shaw, what I was going to say is I think I take a lot of crap, actually. I was not including myself on the list of people who don't take any crap. I take lots of crap.
Yeah, you do.
So if you're saying, is it cool to steal because you're poor or something? No, it's not. And nevertheless, there may be circumstances in which you choose to do that, Chris M. is I, the type that takes the least crap and has to stop buying shit out of everyone. What type are you, Chris M? Besides the type that takes the least crap? What type is that?
Yeah, what type is that?
Martivia Silva. I think we all agree that Prince Philip was alive.
What?
Octavia Silva asked, does everyone agree Prince Philip was an ESTP? I said, I think we all agree that he was alive.
He was alive.
But he's not anymore.
Not anymore. No.
Right, yeah. But he was at one point alive.
Yeah.
What type do I think Tiger Woods is? Probably ISTP.
Hi, PP.
But could be ESTP maybe. He's known for humping a lot of girls.
Who?
Tiger Woods.
Oh, Tiger Woods. Yeah, he is.
Who's had some fancy stuff? Which prince?
Philip?
Oh, Prince Philip? Well, he had 99 years in which to generate fancy words. So one would hope he managed to come up with a couple of clever quips. Yeah, so I think one of the possible types for takes the least crap is ESTP. One of the possible types for takes the least crap might be ISTP. One of the possible types for takes the least crap might be ESTJ. And one of the possible types for takes the least crap might be ENTJ. I think those are your most, but you're really only 4 main contenders for the title of takes the least crap. I don't think ENTP qualifies, frankly. Who, Prince Philip?
What I know about Prince Philip is that he was actually demoted when he married the queen. Like, he had to step down in his position, like, in the Navy. So he got downgraded to Prince. So
he can no longer be the viceroy of
yeah,
the Lord Admiral of the majestic regal royal faction of
100%.
the Queen's Cross or
Yes. Totally. He was that guy.
Bly Joe says ISTP takes the least crap. So I should be an expert at feeling that's me. It's funny, I typed this guy from Hong Kong the other day, and he didn't want me to record it, but his FE tool was so FE tool. Listening, nodding, smiling, giving me all the right social cues. And then it's like after I was done typing, I was saying something like that to Rachel, and I was watching her do the exact same thing.
Yeah, you said
active
that
listening.
we made the same facial expression with the hand on the face.
Yeah. Eric, do you think the whole Meghan Harry issue is about royal bloodlines? I mean, no, I think it's about Meghan Markle being a country without a re.
So she's always smiling in every picture. Does she just like is her face like constantly in that position?
Which position? A smile? A fake smile?
Like, yeah, she's constantly smiling.
Should I hear quotes from Prince Philip? I don't think a prostitute is more moral than a wife, but they are doing the same thing.
Yeah, he was known as a scamp.
And you're too fat to be an astronaut. To 13-year-old Andrew Adams who told Prince Philip he wanted to go into space.
You're too fat to be an astronaut. Oh my god.
Am I a Crusader or a Templar? Are those my only two choices? Well, John W., I think some questions about which body types best survive in space remain unanswered. It could be that just as a larger individual is more drought and famine resistant than a skinnier person like me, then maybe they additionally have some zero G benefits that a skinny person like me doesn't.
Yeah.
I could be a Knight of Malta. Could it be a glass of malted milk?
A Knight of Malta.
How about a malted milkshake?
Malted milkshake sounds delicious. Yeah, I think that you can be that.
All right, cool. That's what I'm going to be then. I'm going to be a malted milkshake.
What flavor do you want to be?
Tell me this man was an EXTP. Which man? Oh, you mean Prince Philip? Yeah, probably it was. I wonder what he did for fun, when with all this princely free time.
He liked to shoot. He liked to go shooting.
He liked to go shooting.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think malted milk balls are the candy that takes the least crap? I don't think so. I'll tell you what the candy that takes the least crap is. Well, besides Jawbreakers, probably Jolly Ranchers. Among common candies. Yeah. I don't think a Jawbreaker qualifies as a common candy. In fact, the one thing I always hear entities say is that they value logical consistency, but the world is so much more nuanced than their black and white logic is quite frustrating. Which entities are you listening to? Are they paranormal in some regard? Is that why you're calling them entities?
Hi, Pee-Pee.
I don't believe in typology. In fact, I don't believe in personality types at all. I think that humanity is just one big stew of vastly different people who can't be put into categories. Oh, okay, well. I mean, that's fine. You could say that if you'd like. But it's factually untrue. You could categorize them. There are commonalities between different people.
Jolly Ranchers are the bomb. And I like how now you can buy. Well, at one point I went to Hershey and you could get all the flavors in one bag. So I got cherry, apple, and I think watermelon. And yeah, it was dope, but they are definitely tough on your teeth.
Yeah. You could definitely
too.
break your teeth biting down on those things.
Yeah.
So the thing is this, of course, even if we were dealing with something that was purely a spectrum, like color, it still makes sense to break it into different groupings, right? Darren, you. Okay, so then for you, typology, the way you treat typology then isn't. I mean, nobody treats it like an exact science because it's not one. There's still some art to the practice, right? But you're choosing to not to relegate it to whatever status you'd like, and that's certainly your prerogative. So, the cool thing is you don't have to make any arguments or claims about it at all. Then, in that way, you don't run afoul of anybody. You don't have to defend any claims.
You know what? Is a resilient candy are those like oh my god. There's some English candy or German. It's a dark chocolate. It starts with a W. And like they're like milk duds where like they stick to your teeth. Or just like can pull a filling out.
Yeah.
It's just sticky.
How H is 16 types shits on typology, right? So, I mean, like Darren Kolowski's right there. Whatever type he is, it doesn't matter. It's textbook TI polar.
Werthers? Yeah, Werthers. Yeah, Werthers. They are in the same category as milk duds.
Well, then, Darren Kowalski, if you'd like to argue with me of something, go find some actual content of mine that's political. There's lots of it on the channel, and come with quotes that you disagree with. Okay?
Tootsie Rolls can pull out your filling, but I'm telling you, not Werthers. They're not Werthers. Werthers are hard candy, and they can break your teeth.
The old now and laters, they used to be very. Like your teeth would go into them and then you try to pull them apart. But now they soften them up a bit. I think people complained that their teeth got pulled out,
Yeah. Hello.
Hi, Grogu. So I'm going to, I think, avoid getting into a silly discussion with Darren here, who's been talking out of his buttocks.
Yeah, don't.
But 69 Kita says, I figure typology helps people understand people better. I wish it had the ability to impact or change onward behavior. Well, the thing is this: it's a mapping process that you're applying to both your own mental processes and to others. So in the status quo, most people, when they walk around and engage in paying attention in different ways, don't note the fact that they're paying attention in different ways. In other words, there's no metacognition about it. Cognitive functions allows you to do that metacognition because it gives you a language in which to taxonomy your different moments of attention, if you choose to. Now, for a lot of types who aren't very map-based, and they're not interested or not able really to distinguish between moments of attention within themselves even. So, Darren, ignoring everything you just said there and all those words, do you ever note moments of your paying attention? How are you paying attention right now? So, I mean, Darren, the point is, answer the question if you want to do actual work, okay? So, do you ever note how you're paying attention? And if so, how are you paying attention right now? What's going through your head? What's your mental process? Taxonomy is an arbitrary, non-mechanical breaking down of a group of things, such as the animal families, like mammals, reptiles, fish, birds, whatever, right? That's a taxonomy. It's arbitrary in the sense that there's not a single distinguishing quality that definitively makes you this or that. To the extent that there is one, there's no particular reason to make it that other than something else, right? In other words, there's nothing, well, there may be something definitionally exclusive or inversely proportional about breathing water and air. There's not about having, producing milk and having babies come out of eggs. There's nothing inherently contradictory about those two things, right? There's no mechanical relational restriction. Typology does have those mechanical relational restrictions, but we can talk about it in two ways. If we're just talking about it as a taxonomy, so Darren is saying he doesn't like to do the work that requires a lot of process analysis. So fine, let's talk about it instead taxonomically. You can still talk about it taxonomically, because even if you don't agree with my reasoning as to why it's this way or that way, we can agree that some kind of attention is like yeah, and some kind of attention is like yeah, and those two things are different from each other. Right. In other words, it's understanding typology correctly is sort of limited to a fairly small amount of people. It's like your STPs, your NTPs, your NFJs, ENFJs, and INTJs. Those types, I think, who have the capacity to really understand it correctly. And for some of them, it comes more naturally than others. It's a TI thing. I think STPs and NTPs can come to understand it pretty clearly with TI tool. Although it does matter whether, I guess, I don't know. I mean, I don't see why there's any reason why ESTPs or ISTPs couldn't learn it just as well as NTPs. I don't see any reason why not. But they seem to be a little bit generally less interested in it. So, yeah, there's that. So the thing is, there's a couple of different levels in which you can talk about typology, right? People come in and they want to poo-poo it. Well, okay, what are you poo-pooing, first of all? They have no idea what they're talking about. So it's always like it's a bit of a frustration for me. But if you want to talk about why is it reasonable to group people into personality types at all, then you kind of have, in order to justify that, you have to start with the answer that says, well, because people do pay attention in different ways, and some people habitually pay attention by, for example, knowing, which might be remembering or receiving information, just sort of in a state of receiving, or people might be deliberating, which is doing some difficult mental calculations that they got to parse out in their head. They might be taking action, they might be just schmoozing. These things, some of these observations are basically indisputable. I've never had anybody successfully even attempt to dispute them. That we do pay attention in different ways. That when I'm feeling a stomach ache and rolling around on the ground going paying attention to my pain, that's different than when I'm sitting here talking and explaining things. That some people do have a lot of words to say about a subject like this, have a lot of answers for open-ended stuff, and some people have almost none. And the thing is, Darren Kowalski, if you want to talk about being careful, maybe you should be careful about assuming you know anything. Because not only have I been doing typology for a good 7 years or so, I've also been a classroom teacher. I've worked with lots of students. I've been a debate coach for a lot of years. I've worked with lots of different students. And I've seen how students break into various different kinds of mental processes. Some people are able to understand things very quickly. Other people take a very long time to understand. And it is very reasonable to note, and I can trust my own judgment in not having any particular bias in the matter, but that some of those behaviors correlate with other behaviors strongly, and these are just kinds of things we can see when you actually start assessing people. I've assessed hundreds of people, okay, asking many kinds of questions same kinds of questions in different ways, or the same questions exactly over and over and over again, seeing how different people answer them and how those answers fit into consistent sets and patterns. So that's reality. I mean, what I come to here is a shit ton of experience. What I come to you here with is a shit ton of experience, very robust intellectual abilities that are born of both being a debate coach, spending years constructing the best cases I could, making sure everything was logically sound and bulletproof, and being a teacher of logic, being a classroom teacher of language arts and stuff as well. These unique sets of experiences and skill sets that have developed over time through lots of hard work have been subject to scrutiny of people a lot smarter and a lot more knowledgeable than you for a long time, and are continually subject to that scrutiny. So you're right. There is a need to be careful. You need to be careful because right now you don't know what you're talking about, but you think you do. I'm not trying to box anybody. The thing is, are you a person who says, I don't like to be boxed? You can't put people in boxes. Or do you disagree with that statement? If you agree with it, you're in that box. You put yourself in that box by agreeing with it. If you disagree with it, you put yourself in the other box. If you change your opinion upon it wildly from day to day, you put yourself in a third box. Right?
2 seconds.
Sure.
If you want to come, I'll give you your birthday present early.
Okay. Well, I haven't actually talked to Rachel about it. We'll talk about it as soon as this live stream's over.
We'll figure it out tomorrow.
All right, cool. Think that. Right. Typology allows you to see that you two are in a box. So note what I don't claim. I don't claim the box doesn't apply to me. I'm in a box too. I'm an extroverted intuitor, introverted thinker. And that means I approach life with certain kinds of attentional manners. I mean, it is a box. It's like it's a box in the same way that my Mini Cooper is a box. I can make it a better Mini Cooper. I can make it a worse Mini Cooper. I can take better care of it. I can take worse care of it. It could be a particularly fast Mini Cooper or a relatively slow one. It could be a stick or an automatic Mini Cooper, but it can't ever be a Ford truck. Well, my dad mentioned he was going to Laughlin, and I've been thinking about suggesting to Rachel we go to Laughlin. Yeah, but it's more of a box if you can't see the box at all. If you deny the box's existence. So that's a box you're in. If you deny the box's existence because you don't like boxes and human beings are too unique and special and snowflakey, well, then that's the box you're in. Anyway, Rachel and I were eating dinner with my dad tonight, and he said he was going to Laughlin, and I had been thinking and talked to her about it, but I've been thinking about it. It'd be cool for us to go to Laughlin. It's more chill and kind of old school than Vegas. It's right across the Colorado River from Arizona.
Oh.
So, and my dad's gonna be there the 13th, and so I was saying, why don't we have a getaway or whatever? It'll, it won't be super expensive or anything. We can get down there and we can hang out with my dad. But I guess my dad wants to give me some money or something.
You know it.
So,
Like the more it's cool because like you brought up the idea, right? And the more he thought about it, the more he liked it. At first he was like, "Don't you guys want to like be there for a long more days?" And you're like, "Yeah, we'll just talk about it." And then the idea like it's like, "Hey,
yeah.
that could actually be really nice."
Well, I agree. The question is how, out of what materials is that box composed, and why, are the critical questions. You've not looked into those questions in any meaningful way. So anyway, I do kind of want to go to Lapland. I don't like gambling in California because it's just ridiculous the amount of money the casinos take, whatever kind of gambling you're doing, whether it's poker, the rake, whether it's like playing slot machines at the Indian casinos or blackjack at the Indian casinos. It's the disadvantage that the players at is outrageous. So it's much better to gamble in Vegas or in Nevada than it is in California. So like it looks like now that my dad's enthusiastic about it, I think we'll go do that.
Okay.
And we'll book a hotel room tonight and after this thing, and
Okay.
yeah, or maybe I should wait till the morning and talk to my dad.
Yeah, wait till the morning
Yeah.
to talk to your dad because he might have some suggestions.
That's true. Don't soggy my box. Don't
Yes,
soggy my box
yeah.
is a good bumper sticker for your car, like Joe.
Very good suggestion.
See, it's just I think you're less of a fan, more of a soggy box.
Soggy box indeed. Again, great use of the word.
You know, no offense to sogginess or boxes.
No, right. Both great. But yeah, when you see a soggy box, it's a little sad.
Well, like I said, Darren Kowalski, you haven't asked the right questions yet, right? Yeah, that's just being provocative. It doesn't. Nobody's that dumb. Well, he's just trying to provoke, just baiting. Nobody's that dumb.
I liked the question on Talking with Famous People when someone asked, "What would a polar person do with the box?" and like someone suggested, just kick it around.
The only one of these people who's real, Chris M, is Elijah. Okay, that's
Yeah.
not real Frank James, and it's not real CS Joseph.
I actually think that Frank James would have a check mark next to his name.
Yeah,
if
he
it
would.
was him.
I'm surprised Elijah doesn't have one yet.
Yeah, she probably will soon.
Can TE polar person be an engineer or do anything like that? Potentially. It's not like TE polar people can't learn how to do things. They just typically can't figure out how to do things. You know what I'm saying?
Box destroyer. LOL Legends Ball.
That's not CS Joseph. That's not CS Joseph.
No problem, Chris M.
Well, because I'm not the type that takes the least crap. I'm the type that takes quite a bit of crap. And so as a consequence, I don't ban people unless they do something ban-worthy. And even then they tend to come back. Also, I make bold claims. So, you know, I say things that people find that strike them irritatingly on FE grounds. You know, I think the most sort of harsh interpretation of me is that I'm frequently insufferable, full of myself, arrogant, unreasonably confident in what must surely be just as arbitrary as everything else. I think that's that is the general position of people who are against me, or whatever you want to say. Well, the thing is, I get it. It's important for me to try to present good extrovert feeling and stuff. What arguments do you think I don't have? Oh, even if you do have, not like your audience can easily access. That's actually very much not true, Darren. I regularly share the link to a book I made called Citing Tables. I've got 6,000 videos plus. Maybe do a little research before making stupid statements. I mean, the thing is, I understand how I could be successfully accused of being arrogant, or at least of saying arrogant things, right? But by and large, I am in actuality extremely egalitarian in my dealings with everybody. It's not like people might call me arrogant, but they wouldn't call me haughty, right? So what they really mean is I make bold claims about where I'm correct, and how I'm correct, and that I am correct. The thing is, after the earthly, in general, there's some truth in what you say, but I walk a narrow path in the sense that I'm the good guy. So I don't I try not to troll. I try to be honest, and I'm willing to. Yeah, well, I meant HAUGHTY, haughty. Like, I'm not snobby, right? Yeah, you might call me arrogant in some fashion, but you wouldn't call me snobby. Why do you assume his audience cannot easily assess his arguments? Only take Eric face value that having critically assessed things. So, what are your thoughts on Queen's Gambit's facial expression type method? I just think it's, I think the idea that you can type people based purely on physical cues is false for a couple of reasons, but most significantly that even if you're right, it's not a justification that you can give to anybody else, because it doesn't reference an equally objective, it doesn't reference an objective set of data that both people can equally access through the same frame of reference. Even if you're going to say that this thing correlates with that thing, there's no mechanical reason why. In other words, there's no definitional necessity for a relationship of either exclusivity or inverse proportionality or something like that. That's part of what cognitive functions, the engine of it is that we have a finite number of hours in the day, and behaving in some ways necessarily precludes you from behaving in other ways. Paying attention to in some fashions and to some data necessarily precludes you from paying attention to others in other ways and in other data. Let's talk more about the infamous stink pickle. We all run from it. I would run from it if I were to encounter one. I have yet to encounter a stink pickle in the wild. I've only seen them in zoos.
I think I might see a juicer.
Mm.
I do.
Isn't the ability to critically assess a thing? I mean, it takes critical ability to be critical. There's levels, am I right? Well, look, at the end of the day, when we use words like this, we're turning things into objects of analysis. Hey, it's box. No, we weren't talking about you. We were talking about your friend Soggy Box. Unless you're Soggy Box, you just don't have it in your name. Maybe you weren't always soggy. I could feel the juiciness of a tug there, but I don't think you got it out, did you?
No, I didn't.
It's a juicy tug, though.
Oh, jeez. That was not the same spot, but I'm glad I got that one.
Anything else? Is that one you were getting before?
No, it's a different one. Whoa.
That's a bigger. That's a bigger. I mean, obviously, Alex Rodriguez, he's not good at determining himself regarding that matter. So I don't know why you think he's good at determining other people regarding that matter. But I've not seen that. In fact, when people come to me after having been mistyped by him, consistently he's wildly off base. He's not even close in his mistyping of them. So, I mean, that's not my experience. Of course, granted, the ones who are satisfied by his typings probably don't come to get typed by me. No, Chris M, it's not possible to develop your cognitive function. Remember, a cognitive function is a choice to prioritize mia for more hours of the day than mia. In part, right? So you can't get better at them because you only have a certain number of hours of the day. And a cognitive function stack is a strategy towards how to address those hours of the day. It's I'm going to address my hours of the day by ideating a whole bunch, making sure everything's logical, trying to keep track of being likable, and hopefully archiving what I've done at some point. Box, fortunately for you, I have learned over the many years of practice that I can successfully type boxes just from the chat. And I can tell you right now, I'll do you for free, you are a Peruvian prayer box. Peruvian prayer box. It's a very rare kind of box. They give it to the llamas on their first birthday. Yeah, time spent is a result of favoritism among attentional mammals. It's a strategy for how to use your time, basically. And we do say pay attention, spend time, right? We have a finite amount of that, and we spend it in some ways and not in others. And the thing is, we could look at a person's behaviors exclusively, and we could do some amount of typing from that. But it turns out that the best way to type people is that the meaningful underlying structure behind it, if we get it right, is predicated on this four kind of paying attention: knowledge, deliberation, interface, action, these four fields, and that it's just sort of axiomatically so. There's lots of other reasons we can, anchors we can tie in various places. We have a physical mechanical explanation for it, which is to say locality suppression. In other words, we already know that when one part of the brain lights up, the parts around that part dim down. So that locality suppression idea shows that if we're consistently lighting up some parts of your brain, then some other parts of the brain are consistently lighting down. That's what it means to have a cognitive function stack, essentially. Well, you can't fail all the tests, okay? Well, y'all would. Okay, if somebody fails all of the tests, then they are a newborn baby. A newborn baby will fail all the NE tests, all the TI tests, and all the SI tests they can get. Not to mention my FI, TE, and FE tests. So I concede my inability to type newborn babies. I concede it.
Wow, your mom mature than C.S. Joseph.
Darren Kowalski, I'm saying there's something called locality suppression, okay, which exists in the brain. Forget about cognitive functions. Forget totally about cognitive functions for a second. Something called locality suppression, which means there's an inverse proportionality relationship between certain cognitive processes and others. That's it.
Wow.
In theory, we must first define crap. Therefore, we can't legitimately determine who can take the least or the most. Well, I don't think there's a single definitive answer as to who can take the least or most crap. But I would say that by and large, ESTPs are not big on taking crap. And also ISTPs are not big on taking crap. ESTJs will take crap from somebody with the right authority, but they don't like it. ENTJs probably don't take a lot of crap. I think those are the 4 types in the running. But, INFJs don't actually take a lot of crap either. They'll take some crap and then they'll flip out,
I do so apologize.
I'm not talking about you, Harry. I'm not talking about you. I'm just saying if somebody's giving you crap.
Right.
I don't feel like that applies to us.
Cool.
I don't feel like I'm giving you crap,
No.
Which type is most likely to take crap? Probably ISFP or ISFJ, maybe.
Yeah.
I think both ISFJ and ISTP will take a certain amount of crap before they too, go meow meow meow. When ISFP snaps and puts their foot down and they're tired of being pushed around, they get really kind of scary with their fierce FI. As fierce as 1,000 meteors. What we mean by crap, we're meaning bullpucky. Bullpucky. Or male cow turd. Hassling. Harassing. Maybe, what's that word? Hazing.
Oh.
That's what I mean by crap. Or pushback from people who shouldn't be giving you pushback. Just crap. Like, if I go to the store and I'm like, hey, I bought this bag of rice from the store and I took it home and I was filled with beans. This isn't rice, it's beans. They put the wrong kind of thing in this bag. It says rice on the bag, but it's nothing but beans. The person shouldn't be giving me pushback, right? They shouldn't be saying, how do we know that you didn't go home and replace the rice with beans and bring it back in here? Because, first of all, like, who the hell would do that? And I don't know. Let's just say I just had a small hole in it so I could see that there were beans in it. I didn't even open it all the way. It's very obvious I didn't. I just bought it and went out to the car, came back inside. I shouldn't be getting any pushback about this. They shouldn't be saying, well, you bought it, you took that risk of, well, I know it says rice on the bag, but you never know. You never know when you buy a bag of rice. Sometimes you get a bag of beans. I shouldn't be getting that kind of pushback.
No.
So if I am getting that kind of pushback, and I'm sort of just taking it, then that's taking crap, right? But they won't get very, very far with me on that one. I'll be like, okay, hold on a second. I cannot believe you're objecting to my complaint. If anybody was ever justified in a complaint, surely in this instance I am. Valerie Alwood would like to revisit her type. Or revisit her bio. What type do you think or feel she was? Oh, I see. I see. I misunderstood that entirely. What is a non-crap taking response? Oh, okay. Well, I guess I'll have to get another bag of rice then. That'll be a craft-taking response. A non-craft-taking response would be, I mean, my response, if they started objecting, I would immediately interrupt them with, "Whoa, what are you doing? I need give me a bag of rice, fucker." You know, I wouldn't cuss at them, but I would shut that shit down before they even had a chance to go very far with it. If then they said, "Let me talk," I'd say, "Go right ahead." And I listened to them very carefully as to exactly what they had to say. And then when they were done, I'd say, "Are you done talking? Have you made all your points? Okay, now." And then I, you said, but you said, like that, you know. That's how that would go.
I like your use of blah, blah, blah.
Bitch, I'm keeping these beans. Like the most assertive response would be, "I want raw bag of rice and I'm keeping these beans too." That'd be the most assertive. I wouldn't make that claim. I would just be like, "I want to trade this bag of beans in for a bag of rice," you know? And I am really curious how it came to be that your bags of rice are filled with beans. Makes you want to go look at your other bags of rice and poke holes in them and see if they're filled with beans. Jesus is Lord, yeah, yeah, yeah. Hello to you, yeah, yeah, yeah. Jesus is Lord, yeah, yeah, yeah. How do you do? Yeah, yeah, yeah. You like that song? It's one of a couple of religious songs I've written, including the song to the sign that my ESFJ ex-wife's mother had in her house. I can do all things in Christ who strengthens me. She had that sign up in her house. And when I see it, I sing that song every time I saw the sign.
That's a nice song to it.
Yeah. It seems to fit the melody seems to fit the words.
Mm-hmm.
I can do all things in Christ who strengthens me. It's very jingly, you know.
I can do all things in Christ who strengthens me.
If there were a church with an advertisement, that would be a good jingle for their advertisement.
Mm-hmm.
I can do all things in Christ who strengthens me. Who said anything about preferences? I didn't say anything about preferences. I mean, you have habits of paying attention. Some people habitually pay attention via an interested calculus. Some habitually pay attention via a disinterested calculus. And some habitually pay attention via a non-deliberative function, you know? You know what I'm watching right now? And it's pretty good. I recommend it. Although it's gotten a little bit squirrely on me, I think. Is this show called The 100. Rachel informs me it was formerly on the CW, which I believe is a network that was mostly directed at teenagers with their programming. But this show is really quite enjoyable. Well, disinterested calculus. Okay, so Darren, to distinguish between disinterested and an interested calculus. So when a referee in a game calls a foul, he's supposed to use a disinterested calculus. He's not calling the foul because he wants one team to win or the other team to win. He's trying to be as objective as he can using a disinterested calculus. I am not a supporter of either team. If I am a huge supporter of one of these teams, then I'm going to recuse myself because I'll be biased. Okay. Now, in contrast, when a coach gets in the referee's ear and yells at him for making bad call after bad call, the coach is using an interested calculus. Some of those calls may actually have been bad, but the reason the coach is determining they're bad and the reason they're hammering the bad calls and highlighting them is because they are doing the coach's job, which is to try to get the team to win, not to be honest about whether or not their player deserved a foul, right? So if they can get in the ref's ear and complain enough and get the ref to make a bad call down the line that helps their team, that's what the coach is supposed to do. That's an interested calculus, okay? So one of those parties you can trust regarding the fouls a lot more than the other party, right? Is it clear now? The interested and disinterested is a matter of whether or not you have an interest in the matter. So if there's a conflict between my son and a random kid, I shouldn't be the judge of that matter, right? Because I have an interest in the matter. You find somebody who is both no interest in the matter and is habituated to using a disinterested calculus, and you've got the best judge possible. I mean, the thing is, there are certain aspects of life which are best served by using an interested calculus. And there are certain ways in life. Yeah, sure. If you want to book a session, go for it. My email is under every video, my phone number and everything. So just shoot me a day and time slot you want, and I'll follow up by email if you'd like. Disinterested calculus doesn't imply absolute objectivity, right? Well, I mean, see, this is the thing. We use the word objective in a couple of different ways, and if you're not distinguishing between these, then let's start there. When we talk about data, objective data is data that can be accessed by everybody equally. If we're talking about people being objective or not, well, people behave objectively, in their calculations or subjectively in their calculations in various contexts. Some contexts are appropriately call for an interested calculus. One of the ways that ENTPs are hurt by not using an interested calculus very much is that we don't prioritize practical outcomes very much. So it's not very important to me that I see that I have ownership of all my ideas or something. I spill ideas all over the place, and if somebody picks one of them up and uses it for their own benefit, great. No problem. It's like Amy Sedaris said, I just like to have the ideas. Other people can help me follow through on them or something like that. That's one of the downsides of FI Polar is that you don't really make sure you get yours, you're not really that concerned about getting your fair share. So, but in other aspects of life, it's important to use a disinterested calculus. If you're talking about modeling human cognition, it is possible to do it correctly, and it's possible to do it incorrectly. And to do it correctly, you're going to need to use a disinterested calculus, which is to say a logical calculus or TI-driven calculus, one that evaluates the legitimacy of things against whether or not they're argumentationally defensible universally to everybody. In other words, when I make my reasons public and make them objective data, does that data withstand scrutiny? Do those arguments withstand scrutiny? And it's critical to remember, of course, that the strongest explanations are those that are intuited first. Well, because Darren Kowalski, I'm a different type than you. If I don't believe in it, it's not a matter of believing in. I consistently don't prioritize practical outcomes. I prioritize other things. I take PayPal or Venmo now. So the thing is, Darren, whether to understand this whole thing correctly, you got to begin with understanding what language is doing, okay? And understanding the distinction between a map and a territory, what to expect from your map. So in other words, if you want to criticize a cognitive function model, then first understand what it's trying to do and what would represent success. In other words, set a success criterion that it can meet that's very well articulated. You don't set that until after you've done a lot of research. Then you set that success criterion, okay? And then you test the system to see if it meets that success criterion or those success criteria. You try to find ways to falsify it. You test it and see if those falsification metrics do in fact falsify or fail to falsify, which is to say are consistent with. And that's how you think about these things properly. If you want to do so, begin as soon as you're ready. How much of what I'm saying are you understanding? If you're honest about the whole thing, how much of what am I saying of what I'm saying are you understanding? Am I wasting my breath? Look, the bottom line is any frame of reference that's worth anything doesn't just explain the world and other people, it explains yourself as well. And cognitive functions are uniquely capable of doing that. However, some people don't want to understand themselves through that map-driven approach, or find it useless, or find it constricting, or just think it allows others to place labels on them or something. Is that correct? Is that true? Well, from their perspective, it probably is true, but if you're not, there are two kinds of attentional matters that pay attention by communicational matters, and attentional matters that pay attention by non-communicational matters. The non-communicational operate on a linear real-time progression, and the communicative ones operate in a turn-based fashion, as is happening right now. Well, no, Darren, I'm saying you need to decide if you're going to critique, for example, my particular understanding of cognitive functions. You need to decide what would qualify as passing your inspection, so to speak. In other words, how falsifiable would it have to be? And if it failed to pass your inspection entirely, what would you do with that? In other words, if you find nothing explicitly to disagree with, but insufficient robustness to make absolute absolute claims that are defensible along multiple metrics, including empirics, logic, blah 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 blah. So, in other words, are you willing to do anything with that, or is it completely useless if it's not relative, if it's not absolutely relative, if it's not purely empirical? Have you thought about this? So in other words, how are you going to decide before you look at it, before you talk about it, okay? Think about, how might I decide this kind of thing, right? What would be an adequate proof for me? Then read it and then set your falsification criteria according to your general principle that you thought about ahead of time, and then apply it to this, right? But it's a lot of work. Okay. I mean, my point is, and I'm demonstrating it here, that it's definitely not ENTP. I have a lot of faith in my ability to use language successfully to get past some barriers with other people. Now, that faith is to some extent faith. I have a lot of evidence to the contrary with certain kinds of people, but nevertheless, I persist in the good course. I believe that words have the ability. Words and ideas can change the world, just like Robin Williams said. I believe that. And the fact is, though, only some people are. There's two factors to consider. One is their natural comfort level with abstract thought and logic and and reasoning based stuff like that. That's one factor. But the other factor is where the person is in their own personal growth. If they're still doing a lot of ego defense, then they're going to primarily be focused on that. If they find me threatening in some fashion, then they're going to be coming in very, combative, confrontational, baiting, provocative, whatever, and they're not really interested in having a conversation. They've already come in with a clear they're burdened with a clear ego-based need before they can even get to the ideas, really. And so in that case, you can't do much with those people because even if they have the cognitive capacity to handle it, they're not ready on that level. But in the former camp, I think we've seen just even ESFPs can benefit from language correctly, can benefit from my correct words. Because the ESFP the other day, she's the one who came back to me and said, I've been watching and I believe myself to be TI polar based on all of your stuff you've been saying. And when I tested her more thoroughly, she was right. So it shows that ESFPs as well can apply the map when they choose to, but it takes a certain amount of humility because it's a leap of faith, right? The correct approach to cognitive functions is very TI heavy, and if you're TI polar, then you're not really going to understand how the car works, but you're going to trust that it will drive. If you're grown in a certain sense. ESFP INFJ compatibility. What do you think, Rachel?
What's the combination?
ESFP INFJ.
ESFP INFJ. It's tough. It's a toughie because there's going to be a lot of adoration on part of the ESFP, which the INFJ is going to really like. It'll make them feel special, but ultimately, ESFP is going to want to be boss, and they're going to want the INFJ around a lot more than the INFJ is comfortable with. So, personal space and boundaries are not something that an ESFP does well with.
So they love bomb you, and then they say, hey, let's go find another girl for a threesome.
The females probably, yeah.
Usefulness to humans doesn't make their life more meaningful. That's a very anti-TE sentiment there. What protects you from evil bugs? Evil birds? Some things are about should, and some things are not about should in life. For example, you have to choose to kill a puppy or a kitten. As John W. is saying, it's presented initially from a TI user's perspective as questions that come before the initial assertions are to be ignored. Valerie Alwood, if you choose neither, then they're going to drop 1,000 kittens and 1,000 puppies in a vat of boiling oil.
Oh.
I don't have any particular philosopher that I like. as a debate coach, I've spent years pulling out the actual arguments from various philosophers, but not spending much time reading reading stuff that's not useful argumentationally. The thing is, philosophy is really a subset of linguistics. I'm more of a linguist than anything. So, in other words, people who think philosophy can do more than it can do, or expect it to do something they can't do, or think that words are impactful in certain ways that they aren't impactful in, they're not getting. It's like I don't want to get into it really. I'm not really in the mood to argue about philosophy because it's a big topic and you're not really presenting any positions, you know? You're just you're sort of fishing for something to provoke about, I guess. I'm not sure. So if you haven't seen The 100, it's a pretty good show, like I was saying. It's got this, it's got the basic storyline or plot idea is the Earth had a nuclear war, and there were some people up in space stations, and they all combined their space stations together and raised a couple generations of people there on the space station. And, you know, finally they end up sending these 100 kids, teenagers, juvenile delinquents, they're called. And they basically, it's kind of a Lord of the Flies-y kind of setup. Anyway, they get down there and shit happens. You want to talk about T.I. Polar more? Well, the thing is, the T.I. Polar was very obvious, extremely obvious in her, except in the apparent contradictory genealogy questions. Except she indicated, she gave us good reason as to why she was able to do the genealogy. She was actually really into genealogy for a while, so I got very accustomed to those. Mount Weather it's called, yeah. She got very accustomed to those relationships in particular. But when and you know, that's the thing about the TI test in general, is they are learnable. So TI skills are more learnable or more likely to be learned than, say, SI skills or NE skills. But the thing is, what's really revealed with the TI Polar is the difficulty with the frame of reference. So in other words, you ask questions like, I have either a horse or a donkey and I don't have a donkey. You know, she'll say, but you don't have a horse either. You don't have either a horse or a donkey though, do you? It's like they keep losing the frame of reference that these are symbols, and we're talking about the relationships between the symbols. We're not talking really about reality, you know? Or, you know, all squirrels love baseball, so, but no squirrels love baseball, so, I mean, you know, it's like that's TI Polar. They keep slipping from the frame of reference. And she totally did that. Now, granted, she did get the genealogy questions right, and that's why you have to be careful not to false positive on something or false negative on something too quick, right? You got to do a little bit of extensive testing because there can be flukes like that where she happened to spend a lot of time doing genealogy work on her own family for kicks a couple of years ago or whatever. If you choose to do nothing, you still choose. If you don't choose, you still choose. Hesitating too long is a form of choice. You know? TI Polar is really resistant to accepting the hypothetical constraints of the question. Right. TI Polar people. if you want to see what it looks like when somebody's TI polar, Darren, if you're not TI polar, it'll be quite striking to you. Watch the video we're talking about. Type into the Esfp. At the end of it, well, Jeff Shaw, Donna again was pretty clearly TI polar, and ESTJ isn't TI polar. You know what I'm saying? So that eliminates that. Well, the problem with the idea of killing one to save 1,000 in general is it's always the same fundamental agency problem, which is it assumes that both these people are necessarily going to die if you don't act, and that your action is necessarily going to save them. You could end up killing, and then it doesn't save. Then something else bad, something you didn't anticipate happens and kills the person the people you're trying to save as well. So now you've just added a death. And I mean, that's much more consistent with reality than the hypothetical. The problem with hypotheticals is they do assume certainty about their assumptions, even when reality doesn't provide certainty about those kind of assumptions, right? So that's one of the ways in which TI can fall short, and it often has its shortcomings exploited by bad actors with bad justifications. So do you think all characters with the compulsive need to be liked are first or second slot FE? No, I would say I have. I don't have a compulsive need to be liked. I have a compulsive, I'm addicted to social engagement of this fashion, but I would say that I much more enjoy it when I'm not having to argue with somebody. I'm very tired of arguing with people. The thing is, everybody comes in here. I've seen Darren around before. Who knows who he is, but everybody comes in here and thinks that they're arriving at a place where, like somebody needs to come in here and shake things up a bit. Okay. I've been around for a long time and have encountered a million people just like you. Problem with that is that it normalizes violence as a method of achieving ends, but generally makes things worse at a societal level. I mean, you're assuming that the specific moral question sets precedent in some fashion. Why would you agree? Why would that necessarily be the case? When you say that the problem with that is it normalizes violence as a method. So what the argument you're making there is what you call rules consequentialism, which is an attempt to bridge utilitarianism and deontology. But the problem is you're still making a utilitarian justification for it, that the long-term benefits of applying this rule outweigh the harms. Now, the thing is, I agree with you on that claim, that we need to preserve the integrity of systems in order to sustain a civil society in general. But I would say I'm not an advocate of rule consequentialism because, specifically, if we're trying to determine which rules are moral by how well they preserve by their impacts, then we're still doing utilitarianism. It's just a frame up, you know. We're still predicting impacts and using heuristics to determine what's moral. You've got to simply rid yourself of the predictive aspect entirely. A normative framework should definitively tell you whether a prescribed action, whether a prospective action, a normative framework should definitively tell you whether prescriptive action is morally prohibited or not before and without measuring any impacts. Otherwise, it's just you're only morally responsible to believe your own heuristics, and that's all the justification you ever need for violating other people's bodily integrity or other things, you know. Soft deontology is not the same as real consequentialism. All right, school me. Inform me of the difference. Why is what he's doing not real consequentialism? You think I'm giving him too much credit for all the particulars of it, or what? I mean, isn't that fundamentally the engine behind real consequentialism? That's the warrant. Is that we should uphold rights because it guarantees better utilitarian impacts long term. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying. My husband and I actually enjoy arguing politics and current events just to test the boundaries of our own thinking. It's kind of enlightening. How do you measure utilitarian value, benefit, and total benefits? I mean, I don't understand that question. Utilitarianism, the basic rule behind it is greatest good for greatest number. And the principle behind it is that you anticipate what impacts your behavior is going to have and make moral decisions accordingly. So, of course, utilitarianism does justify killing one person to save some others. The classic philosophical test of the railroad track where you flip the switch. If you flip the switch, the train goes over onto this track and kills one person. If you leave it alone, it continues on this track and kills 5 people, right? Most people are willing to flip the switch, but not willing to push somebody in front of the train to save the 5 people. That's typically the way it breaks down. If you go to any sort of philosophy 101 class in colleges, they'll typically ask this question. And the way students respond is as follows. I mean, I've asked it to logic classes as well. You say, is it morally right to flip the switch to make the train go to the other side where it kills fewer people? And the majority of the students will say yes. And then it says, what if instead of pick up that one person that's on the track over there and instead put him on a bridge and make him a big fat man? Is it morally acceptable to physically push him off the bridge in front of the train to save those 5 people? And almost nobody will say yes to that. So and if you take a general population of students, like college freshmen or whatever, who aren't necessarily super informed about these topics yet, then that's how the population demographic will tend to break down in terms of responding to the questions naturally or with their intuitive morality. Now, it turns out that Kant specifically draws that distinction then when he says it's not morally acceptable to use another agent as a means to an end. So in the first example, when you pull the lever, you're not using another agent as a means to an end. You have a foreseeable but not what's the other word they use when I talk about this? A foreseeable but not intentional consequence. Okay. In the second instance, you have a foreseeable and intentional consequence. So, in the second instance, you're using the person's life to save the other lives. In the first instance, you are aware that one person's life is going to be sacrificed instead of the 5, but their death is the intentional result only of saving the other people, not the other way around. In other words, death isn't instrumental to saving the other people. I'm not interested in doing that 69Q to. Yeah, the categorical imperative, which can be expressed as don't use another agent as a means to an end. All right, we're going to wrap this up now with wrapping paper. It's been an hour and a half. Good population of viewers tonight. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate it. And I hope you have a wonderful, 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 lovely, delightful, and blessed good evening.